Hello dear students, welcome back in the SQL tutorial series. Now in today's lecture or in today's video we are going to focus on the exception handling, or we can say error handling in SQL blocks. So what is exception handling, or what are exceptions? Exceptions can be any type of errors which occur during the execution of your program or after the execution of your program. If your system doesn't know about how to handle that exceptions, then your program will stop working and you will not get the desired result from that code or from that program. So there is a need of exception handling whenever you want to handle the errors. So it can be of two types, means it can be implicitly or it can be explicitly. Implicitly, that is predefined error exception handlings, that can be of two types in further, and explicitly, which are handled by the programmer or the coder itself, means they will define the errors, that if this error occurs, how to handle these errors. So in our today's lecture we will discuss about what are exception handlings and what can be the general syntax for exception handling, or how to code them, or how to make a code related to your exception handling part, and then the type of exceptions. So first we will focus upon what is exception handling. So as I told you before that it is the feature to handle the exceptions which occur in a PL/SQL block. So that is known as exception handling. So when you handle the exceptions, you have to test some code, and if that condition occurs in your program, and then specific statement will execute and your program will not we can say exit with that condition. It will take precautions from that statement, or it will do whatever the statement will tell them to do. So this is called exception. Now when you are creating an exception, or we can say exception handling block, then it will prompt a message on your screen. So basically it can have three parts whenever you are creating an exception handling. So then in PL/SQL it can has three parts. First is the type of exception. You have to define which type of exception you want to handle. Then you have to define an error code, whichever code you want to handle that condition. Here you have to give the condition that your exception will handle this condition. If that condition occur in your program, then you have to display some message, or you have to handle that exception using this message. So it has three parts: name of the exception or the type of the exception, then the error code or the condition, and then message which will be displayed after the execution of this exception. So if we talk about the structure and the general syntax of an exception handling code, then this is the general syntax. We have to declare our block. In this section we will declare our variables or function and procedure, whatever we want to use in our code. Then begin. After that, here we will define everything about our code and program, and after that in the last section we will do exception section. We will start with the exception keyword, and then when keyword, when we have to give the name or the condition, that if that condition occur, then is also a keyword. Then here you have to define your error handling statement, means when this statement will occur or this condition will occur, this statement will execute. You can here define more than one exceptions in simple block. Then here is the first condition, and then when second condition and the statement related to second condition. Then if you don't want to give more conditions, or if you don't know that exactly how many exception can be occur in your program, then you can give one or two exceptions, and then in the last part, else part, we can say it work as if else statement. If this occur, if this occur, else. If they don't occur, if they have something different, or they have some different exceptions, then when others, then this is the error handling block. So if they don't occur and then still there are exceptions, then that exception will be handled by this, or that exception will prompt this or this statement or this message. So this is the general syntax for an exception handling block. So after that we will also go, we can have multiple blocks in our PLSQL block, means inside a block there is one more block. If there is an inner block in your PLSQL statement, see here we have a declaration part. Here we will declare the statements, declare the variables whichever we want to use in our block. Then the body of that block started with begin, and inside that body we have one more inner block. In that inner block, this is the declare part, we will declare some variables related to that, and then begin part, this is also the execution section of this block. And then we have to define the exception of this part, means if you have an outer block or an inner block, then you have to define your exceptions. If they are related to inner block, then they will be defined inside a inner block, and if they are related to the outer block, then they are defined inside a outer block. So it depends on the your block. It depends on your block, if from to which block that is related. So that will be displayed, or that will be assigned, or that will be defined within that block only, not in the, if this is the inner block and then exception is related to this block, you can't define them outside this block, you have to define them inside this block. So if you have nested PLSQL block, then you can also define your exceptions inside them. Now we will work on the type of the exceptions. There are basically two types. One is implicit and one is explicit. Implicit means that are system defined exceptions, and explicit that are user defined exceptions. So on the basis of that, we further divided it into three categories. So implicit is divided into two: named system exceptions and unnamed system exceptions. Sometimes you will get some exceptions which have the naming, which have the built-in naming which is given by the compiler itself. So but sometimes it can be happen that they have unnamed, some unnamed exception exception occurs, then that will be handled by the unnamed system exceptions. And then you can also define some exceptions in your program, that particular error will occur. If that error will occur, then that message will be displayed, and or how that error can be handled if that occurs, you can tell the compiler. So these two category, named system and unnamed system exceptions, they will fall in the category of implicit exception handling and user defined, or it can also say as system exception handling. And then user defined, they are belongs to explicit exception handling. So now we will talk about the name system exceptions. So system exceptions that automatically raised by the Oracle or your compiler when a program violates some rules of the relational database system. So these have some predefined naming, and they have some predefined blocks in it. So these are related to name system exceptions. These are some examples of name system exceptions. First is cursor already open. This is the name of this exception, and when it occurs when you want to open a cursor which is already opened in your PLSQL block, then this exception will be handled. So it has a proper naming, it has a proper numbering. So this type of errors you can have in named exception handling. And now if you want to handle these type of exceptions, they are implicit, which are provided by your compiler or your Oracle subset. Now if you want to handle this, then you can handle this, and you can generate a message if this error occurs in your program. Then what message you want to display? Then begin. Here will be the exception handling part. Start exception when no data found. You have given the name to your exception that is already defined by the compiler. No data found. If this exception occurs, then what statement you want to print? You will give here a statement. So these are called implicit with naming. And then we have implicit with unnamed system exceptions. So these are the exceptions which does not provide a name. So they are unknown, or they are, sorry, we can say they are unnamed, and then we can define them with pragma keyword, or we can say pragma we will use if we don't know the name or we don't have the name for that particular exception. Then we will define them using pragma keyword. They are inbuilt, but they don't have any name. Compiler know what is the condition when these occur, but they don't know the particular name of that situation. Then this is known as unnamed system exceptions. They are also implicit, they are also built in, they are also system defined. Then what is the general syntax? This is the general syntax. We have to use pragma keyword, because it will explain that, or it will show that this is an expression which don't have any name. Then we have to give a particular, we will give a name to that situation, and then we will execute a block related to that situation. So in the declare part, we will declare a name. If pragma will occur, means if unnamed situation will occur, that unnamed situation will be named as this. This is user defined, means when unnamed situation or this is the implicit error handling which can be named by a user. So here in the declaration section, we have to declare that error with a name. We will give a name to that, and then in the begin part and then in the exception part, we will tell when that condition will occur, what we have to do or what statement we will execute. So this is called unnamed system exceptions. Then the last is user defined exception. User defined exceptions are those exceptions which are defined by programmers only. Means apart from system exceptions, we can explicitly define some exceptions based on our rules or RDBMS or the general rules. So they are known as user defined exceptions. So what we have to do for that, we have to explicitly declare them in declaration section, and then we will explicitly raised in the execution section, and then they will be handled by the referencing the user defined exception name in the exception section. So it is a general syntax for that, or we can say it is an example of that this is same, means the general syntax will remain the same. Like this, we will not use pragma keyword, but in the declaration part we will give the name to the exception and the type, whichever name and error code we want to give. Without pragma keyword, we will give that, and then in the begin section we will tell how to execute them and then how to handle them. So this is known as user defined exceptions. So all these three type of exceptions we can handle in our PL SQL block, or that can be take place in PL SQL block. So hope you understand this topic clearly now. Now in our next video tutorial, we will go on the examples related to named, unnamed and user defined exceptions, and we will work on live SQL prompt for that. So hope to see you soon in next video. Thank you so much for giving your precious time. Thanks.